Hi, everyone, and welcome to the teacher training for OnGround. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the tools we offer, our general philosophy, and hopefully show you why we believe our tools can transform your classroom. But most importantly, the reason we do what we do is to empower you, the teacher. We don't want to be prescriptive. You know your classes the best, you know your classrooms the best, and you know your learners the best. So we are here to support you through this journey of making the best education possible available in each and every classroom. What we have is the coming together of three successful educational organizations: the Common Ground Collaborative, or the CGC, Meghshala, and OnGround. Together, the three of us provide one powerful force for educational transformation, and we call that force OnGround. The name OnGround also alludes to the fact that everything we do is rooted in practice. Every tool we build has been used in our classrooms and in classrooms across the world. We've tried out every system that we offer to you, so you never have to wonder, will this work? Hundreds of classrooms show us that it does work, and we're very happy to make these tools available to you. Our four founders are Jyoti Tyagarajan, Kevin Bartlett, Stuti Somani, and myself, Arjun Agarwal. So a quick overview of what we do. We provide a complete solution. We turn silos into systems in schools by tackling curriculum, learning culture, and the community. Because we have to tackle all three aspects if we want to drive transformational change. Together, these three frame our complete coherent learning ecosystem, which is everything you need for world-class planning, teaching, and assessment. We designed our solution by asking 5 key questions. We defined what is learning. We design what's worth learning. We diversify by asking the question, how does everyone access learning? We figure out how to demonstrate. How do we provide evidence of our learning? And finally, we see how we can deliver. How do we build long-lasting, permanent learning cultures? What I'm going to do next is bring you into the guts of what we have to offer. Our tools that are available on an app for you to use in your classrooms and in your time for lesson preparation, for planning, and for your self-paced professional development. So together, what we offer is a global learning ecosystem for our times. And we realize that there is always this trouble with transfer. We all have great ideas. We know how learning works, but it is sometimes hard to bring this into a classroom. We have these fabulous conferences world over, but when we want to get the change we discuss in conferences into the classroom, somehow this change tends to fall into a yawning gap, because teaching is never an easy job and all of you are extremely busy. So we have to ask, how do we make it easier for you to implement the change we know you want to implement without taking more time out of your busy schedules? There are always great policy documents. Perhaps one of the most recent examples is India's National Education Policy in 2020. It's a very well thought out document with great ideas. But these documents, unfortunately, don't reach learners. Plans tend to fall into the divide between policy and practice. But we are here to make sure that everything the NEP 2020 talks about makes it into practice into your classrooms. Again, by giving you tools so that you can build the best classrooms this world has seen. And the first thing we have to address is, in whatever it is we do in life, there is always an elastic holding us back from making daily change. Whether it's teaching, whether it's exercise, whether it's meditation, change requires repetition. And we help you build that repetition in till you see classroom behaviors changing. The classic design pattern is, let's sit, let's brainstorm, let's come up with ahas, see patterns, and build tools. But we said, no, we should not be thinking of what to tell teachers to do. Teachers have years of experience. You're all extremely smart people. So we said, let's flip that. Let's create tools that we can give to you so that you guys can see the patterns. And from those patterns, you will see your own ahas and take what we do and bring it into a context that best suits you, your classroom, without slavishly following what a third party is coming and telling you. And that's what we have. What I'm going to do now is jump into examples of the different products we have to offer at the lesson level, at the planning level, and finally, in terms of self-paced professional development. So our first and maybe most important product is what we offer at the lesson level. Everything we have is aligned to the NCERT, as well as various other boards across the country. We have over 6,000 lessons on our app aligned to the NCERT, the Karnataka State Board, the Northeast Curriculum, and our lessons are available in English, Hindi, Kannada, and languages as diverse as Nepali and Garo. Our lessons cover grades 1 to 8 for English, Math, EVS, Social Studies, and Science. Our lessons are built according to the CGC pedagogy. Every NCERT chapter starts with what we call a compelling question. I'm showing you an 8th grade lesson on Parliament that teaches learners how Parliament works. It can be a very dry lesson, but to pique their interest, we ask them, how does your Parliament represent you? We make that chapter immediately relevant to learners so that they remain interested through the course of the chapter. You will notice two things. Some of our slides have red lines on the left and some don't. The slides that don't have red lines to the left are what we call student slides, and they can be shown to students in classrooms. Slides that do have red lines to the left are what we call teacher slides, and those are instructions that teachers can use to prepare at home. Our app has a way to toggle between teacher slides and student slides so that in class, students will never see the teacher slides. So what you see before you is a student slide that asks the student the compelling question. We then start with the why. We mentioned that one of the Ds was define what's worth learning. We work in the context of the NCERT syllabus, so we cannot choose what to learn. That's prescribed by the syllabus. But we take it upon ourselves to think about and articulate why everything in the syllabus is important to learn. That forms the crux of what we call the story of each chapter. And it is only when both teachers and learners understand the importance of what is being taught and learned that buy-in can happen. So in our lessons, every lesson starts with a what and how. You see the red line on the left, that's a teacher slide. We go over what will happen, how it will happen, through which activities, and most importantly, why. Why is this lesson important? Why is this chapter important? And again, this is on a teacher slide, but the goal of the slide is to tell the teacher why we think this chapter is important, so the teacher can then communicate it to learners. So for the duration of that lesson and of that chapter, learners are fully bought in to what the teacher is saying. A key part of the CGC pedagogy are the 3 C's of learning. We divide learning into conceptual, competency, and character. And this feeds into everything we do. The first goal is to define well laid out learning outcomes using Bloom's taxonomy. So every lesson and every chapter of ours lays out goals that are conceptual, competency, and character. So these are conceptual goals, which are thinking. Learners understand that. And we lay out the goals for that lesson, and the goals that are grayed out are goals that are covered later in the chapter. Our goals, as you can see, are very specific. The sentence step, learners understand that, forces us to lay down specific learning outcomes that can easily be understood by teachers, by learners, and by parents. There's nothing vague. If we had a learning goal that says learners understand Parliament, that communicates nothing. But we make it more specific. Learners understand that when people of a country elect their leaders, they should feel confident that their best interests are taken care of. That is a specific goal. And specific goals also help us build assessments because we know what we need to assess for. After conceptual goals, we jump into competency goals. Once learners understand something, they should be able to do something. So once learners understand that, we jump into competency goals that talks about skills. Learners will be able to do the following things. And this is where Bloom's taxonomy comes in. Learners will be able to give reasons for having their own elected representatives. Learners will be able to explain the need for term limits for elected representatives, and so on. So you can see a very logical flow in our learning goals as well, from conceptual goals to competency goals. The third type of goal, and perhaps the most important in today's world, is what we call character goals. We want to build upstanding citizens and people who understand the importance of society values, moral character, and therefore every lesson of ours makes students into those kind of learners. So every lesson is character goals, and in this case, learners will become more proactive in democratic processes, they become more confident about expressing their opinions, and so on and so forth. So all of our chapters have character goals mapped in as well. So what next? Well, how do we teach? We also lay out a framework for teaching. To teach conceptual goals, we say that learners need to connect to prior knowledge, they need to construct new knowledge, and then they need to contribute their learnings to the entire class. To build new competencies, learners need to deconstruct what they see working, they need to identify where their skills are lacking, and then they need to be able to practice those skills. And we do all of this learning through a sequence of inquiry, of questions, and of activities following the questions. So this slide is now a student slide, and you'll have what we call framing questions throughout the lesson. Every framing question is followed by an activity that connects the students to their prior knowledge and then helps them construct new knowledge and then helps them contribute knowledge. And that's the way our lesson flows. So we ask learners, why is it important to elect our own leaders? We then switch back to a teacher slide that tells the teacher, this is the conceptual goal we'll address, and this is the competency goal. We then give the teachers ideas on how to run the activity. In this case, the suggested activity is appointing a class leader. And we have slides that explain to the teachers on how to run this activity in a class, along with possible answers. Then we jump into the student slides, where these slides are shown to students. We ask them to choose their own leader. We tell them the pros and cons of it. So we connect to their prior knowledge of electing a leader in their class. And with that, we then help them construct new knowledge on how democracy works. And after the activity, we jump into content from the syllabus about India, about our history, and about democracy. So in short, that is how our lesson sequence works. Each lesson we have is a full 40-minute lesson that can be prepared at home and then taught in class with the goals laid out, with inquiry throughout it, with framing questions, with activities. And it'll guarantee you have an engaged, thinking classroom. Perhaps most importantly, everything we do is on an app. It's a very easy to use app. You can sign on once your school signs up. The app can work offline. It downloads everything onto your phone, so you don't need internet for it. It's easy to navigate through all our tools, and we've just made it as simple to use as possible. So one step up from the lesson level is what we call the planning level. The lessons show you how to do everything in class, but we also expose the framework of how we construct the lessons in what we call chapter plans. So for every chapter of ours, we have an annotated planner that lays out the compelling question at the top. In this case, it's the same chapter that I showed you the lesson for. So how does your parliament represent you? We lay out the learning goals, the conceptual goals, the competency goals, the character goals, and we give you the formative learning sequence with the framing questions followed by suggested activities. So if you want to create your own lessons, The chapter plans are ideal. It gives you a template. You can look at our exemplar lessons for ideas on how to implement it. And you can use both these tools together to construct your own lesson that fits your classroom and your students. So again, I wanted to reiterate that nothing we do is prescriptive. Everything we give you are examples for you to look at. The point of the teacher slides is to explain our thinking behind why we put certain things in lessons. And the idea eventually is to help all of you create your own lessons using the framework we provide. But our planning tools, our lessons are always there to support you, whether you've not been able to prepare on a particular day, whether you feel our lesson is a great lesson to teach. If you're walking into a class as a substitute teacher and you want to pick up one of our lessons and teach it, all the options are available. The final tool I wanted to show you is what we call teacher professional development. And these are sets of small bite-sized resources that give you practical tips and tricks of what you can do in your class in small ways to make them a more engaging space. I picked up a module on gender sensitization to show you. And each and every one of our modules are written by teachers who have years of experience in the class. And what they've done is distill their years of experience and come up with small ideas that they found successful in their classes. And this is our attempt to share those ideas with you. So we very firmly believe in our philosophy of teaching. So the same way we ask you to construct your lessons, we use the same philosophies when constructing our teacher professional development. So you will see every teacher professional development resource starting with helping you connect to your prior knowledge. So we ask, what do the terms gender sensitization and problem identification mean to you? What do you wonder about? We lay out what goals you can expect to learn after you complete this 3-minute module. We have a conceptual goal, we have a competency goal, and we have a character goal. We then jump into the module itself. Why is gender important? What are the challenges you face? How can you address these challenges in your class? And we then get into the guts of practical strategies of what you can do in your classroom. I've not shown them here, but every module follows the sequence. At the end of the module, we ask you to give us feedback on how you found it. We ask, again, what new concepts did you learn? Have you learned any new competencies? And have you found any shifts in your character? And this self-assessment tool is also something you can use in your classrooms for learners. You can ask your own learners, after you've taught something, what did they used to think? And what did they now understand? After you've taught them a skill, you can ask them, what did they struggle to do? And what are they now able to do? We use the same strategies again in our teacher professional development that you can use in your classes. And again, this is not to assess you. This is to give us feedback on how useful you found these modules. And we have modules like this across various verticals. Gender is one example, assessments is a second example, inclusive classrooms, which gender comes under. And these are in constant production, and we're going to be having more and more of these available. So we believe these 3 sets of tools, teacher professional development, chapter plans, and fully fleshed out lessons together help us deliver this global learning ecosystem into your hands in your class. By putting it on an app, the app can work on a laptop, it can work on a phone, it can work on a tablet. We make it as accessible to you, the teacher, as possible. Our system is not prescriptive. The tools are for you to use the way you will after our training, and we are always here for support. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of our training. And we really look forward to transforming your classrooms and your schools.